Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the second seating of the coaching circle. Before you are three inner work coaches, and we shall all just take a quick minute to introduce ourselves and let you know where you can find our content. I'll go first. I'm Shiro. I run the podcast Lost in Our 40s, and you can find me at lostinour40s.com. Who wants to go next?
I'll go. I'm Nikki, and I have a YouTube channel all about overcoming performance anxiety. So you can find me there.
And I am Alex. Do inner work coaching. You can find my YouTube channel at Alex Antoinette.
Lovely. So today, our broad theme topic is about intuition, and we'll have a couple of things that go with it. And again, this is not scripted. We just sit back and chat. So think of us as three pals drinking tea and having a conversation. And you're welcome to join the conversation. So, intuition. Who wants to start us off? Maybe we start with what is intuition. That's a dicey
Yes.
one. What is
Okay.
intuition?
All right. I'll talk about that one a little bit first.
Okay.
So, intuition for me is more like a gut feeling. It's a sensation. It's like kind of like a knowing that you feel within the body. And for me, I know when I'm really more at peace with myself, when I'm tuned into my body more, is when I can hear things more clearly. I know it's not my intuition when I'm overthinking, when I'm overanalyzing. So that's like one big distinction between being in the ego or being overridden by fear and anxiety, because my intuition will never put me in a state of fear. It's just matter of fact. I feel like there's different layers to my intuition. Some maybe like if it's like a no, like for example, if it's like I'm thinking about going to hang out with somebody and I'll ask, some guidance on that. If I feel that it's a no, usually physically in my body, I'll feel more contracted. It's more in my gut, like my stomach's in knots. So that's like an obvious no. If it's a yes, I feel kind of tingly or like a little high vibration throughout my body, and it could vary in intensity. And if it's like a maybe, or I need more information or pause, it's kind of more on the neutral side. It's not like a full yes, it's not a full no. So it's more pretty neutral for me. So that's how I feel within my body. I've been playing with that more. Sometimes I'll ask my body to intensify the feeling. So if it's like a no, like it'll intensify it even more, or if it's a yes, it'll intensify it even more, just for me to feel like I'm playing with it and just like having fun. I don't look at it like it's like a chore, or I'm like more lighthearted about that. So it's more of a download I get versus a logical mental thing where I'm processing.
Mm,
So it's more of a sensation. It's like a knowing, it's a guidance from something higher, usually, like whether you want to call it universe, God, your higher self, your inner guidance, whatever feels most comfortable.
great. A question to you, Nikki. I'm just thinking about the person who's listening to this and has never, ever thought about their intuition, has no inkling of what of what the feelings and all that is about. Do you have like a high level uh, view explanation for the introductory course for what intuition 101?
Well, actually, I've spent a lot of my life not being connected to my intuition at all because I've always been in survival mode and been overthinking and analytic. And I was in a situation probably about 2 years ago where I had this boyfriend, and my intuition was literally screaming, "This is the wrong person." But I didn't listened to it and I carried on with the relationship, which then ended. And only now do I know that it was my intuition. But he was saying all the right things and doing all of the right things. But I just knew in my body that it was wrong. So probably, I actually did feel fear. I think the reason why I couldn't connect that that was my intuition was that I'd not been connected to my body and hadn't really been connected to the higher power that Alice was talking about, or the universe, God, whatever you want to call it. So I've done a lot of work since to get connected to myself and my body and to the higher power. So now I feel like I'm a lot more connected to my intuition.
That's really good. That's great. And I can absolutely relate with that at so many levels. And I'll add something interesting because I was both connected to my intuition and not, in that there are things that there are things that would come to me that I would not notice because there's no logic. It needs to make sense. One plus one is two.
Mm.
I am not seeing the numbers, they're not adding up. Then, even though I would get the feeling sometimes, I wouldn't do anything about it because it doesn't make sense. And yet, in other areas like cooking, I'm an intuitive cook, meaning that I don't follow the recipe. I just throw things, I just open the pantry, see what's inside, throw things together, and voila, you come up with something I find great. And that's what I have been pondering about more recently, how that it's apparently possible to be able to be in touch with your intuition at one level and yet shut it down at another. Yeah.
Mm, yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's just like it's trusting the intuition, isn't it? But trusting it in all areas of your life, I think. Because I think I was a bit like that. I would have more intuition in other areas. Like maybe with the boyfriend thing, I really, really wanted a boyfriend at that time. So maybe I just didn't want to listen to my intuition. So maybe things like that are connected to it.
I think a lot of people are scared to trust it
Yeah.
because they feel like this gut is kind of coming from, there's no logical place, and they're afraid of making the wrong decisions.
Yeah.
But the thing is, there have been times in retrospect, looking back at things where we suppressed our intuition, but we always knew it was there and we're afraid to listen to it. Um, and then after enough of those experiences, you're like, okay, it's probably time to listen to it. Okay. Um, give it a go, try it out, even with like smaller things too. That's how I feel. I feel like it's not that some people are more intuitive than others. We are all intuitive. I believe that if you don't name it, you can't claim it. So, if you don't claim you're intuitive, then you're not going to pick up on the intuitive nudges that are coming in. So I feel like claiming like we're all intuitive because we all are. We've always been. We just kind of suppressed it, when we were younger, when we were kids, told by, adults that, oh, you're imagining things, so that's not true, things like that. So when we claim it, I feel like we're more open to receiving guidance or those nudges, whether that be physical sensations within the body or even things that appear in our world that were like, wow, that was a synchronicity, or things just feel right. They feel in the flow. When you're going against the grain, you're going against intuition when you have obstacle backed by obstacle and things like that. Everything seems very forced, seems very like a struggle. I feel like when people tap into their intuition, their life seems to flow a lot easier, a lot better. It's more effortless that way. So when we're tapping into our intuition, what we're doing is tapping back into ourselves and our internal truth, like who we authentically are. So it's like reconnecting back to ourselves to do things that are more in alignment. And we're getting these guidance throughout the day that are um, going to make us feel very more fulfilled versus bringing us away from ourselves.
Mm.
Yeah.
And I feel like the notion of intuition is now more accepted. At some
Yeah.
point in time, it used to be, voodoo, magic, woo, what is all that stuff? But now there is more, even I think with the scientific community, I was reading somewhere this this we have the brain, yes, the one in the head, but the reason it's called a gut feeling is because that within the gut there is also some intelligence there, and that
Mm.
intelligence also gives information up to the brain. So it's not just the brain that does everything and tells the rest of the body what to do, but there are other systems. There's the gut, there's the heart, there are other systems at play. And based on that, for the strictly logical person, as I used to be, there is more acceptance, the sixth sense. There's more acceptance across the board that there is something going on, and why not listen to it? Mm.
Yeah, definitely.
I
Yeah.
think there's science that is starting to back this up more. Um, More so, like, for example, Dr. Joe Dispenza, right? And then, like, his testimonials are with some of the people who do his work is beyond, I would say, just crazy. Like, you really start to believe that there's something like a higher force that is in play with all of that. And they kind of tap into, I don't, like that knowing, like that feeling, that love state. And I believe that's tied to our intuition to degrees. Um, so when you're tapping into that state, these weird synchronicities happen better than you could have expected, and things just happen for you. And I think that's just like the natural flow of allowing versus the matter to matter thing. But
Mm.
yeah, I really enjoy his work. I He does a really good job of explaining like the science behind spirituality and how all of that works.
Yeah.
Good. Now you mentioned, Alex, getting closer, getting more in tune. I think I can't remember how you put it, but getting more in tune with your intuition over time.
Mhm.
How this person who's now starting has been thinking about intuition, but is now just starting to consider what would they do to get more and more in tune with your intuition and to trust it a little more?
I think for me personally, I had spent a lot of time by myself kind of being introspective, and through that I really got to understand what it is that I want from like life and who I want to be. And for example, if fears and anxieties and any negative feelings that were coming up, I was starting to realize that that's more of like a head game that I needed to overcome, and just realize that that is something that I need to release from me. It's hard to listen when you're filled with anxiety, when you're filled with fear. So, whether that means going on a walk or EFT tapping those feelings out, I have to get to a very like neutral state, or at least, yeah, neutral or then a high vibe state, and then I'll kind of feel the energies of things more clearly, or I'll get like more nudges that will be more clear to me. Um, you really have to let go of any anxieties or fears or frustrations and really use your discernment, because your intuition it's always there. It's more like a whisper, but the anxieties and fears and frustrations are always loud. They're always judgy. They're always making you feel scared. They're always the what ifs. They're always projecting into the future rather than the truth. And I think your intuition will always be your truth. And I think you really have to start with being by yourself a little, feeling what you're feeling, and letting go of the old to really be receptive to the downloads and the information that you need to hear.
Mm, yeah. Any reflections on that as well, Nikki?
Yeah, I think for me, I've had to really feel my feelings. Just
Mm-hmm.
because when I was a child, I kind of had to be in the habit of not feeling my feelings in order to kind of survive in that environment. I couldn't have my own feelings and like express them because it wasn't safe to do so. So it's kind of like trying to condition myself now to actually feel my feelings and sit with them. Um, and I find as well, if you can like sit with it and actually acknowledge it and kind of welcome it, it'll actually dissolve. So if it's like, if you feel angry, like feel it, but then just sit with it and observe it, and it will actually kind of dissolve. Um, but yeah, just knowing your own feelings is like a major one, I think, to being able to tap into intuition, and also spending time like meditating and connecting with God or the universe, the higher power.
Mhm.
And mother.
Mm, great. And I love that because I'm also quite into identifying my feelings. So feeling the feelings, I was also really disconnected from myself when younger. So now just trying to understand when this happens, this feeling is called this. I
Yeah,
was reading Brené Brown, Atlas of the Heart, and she says that they ran a survey to kind of ask people, what emotions are you aware of? And the vast majority of people could only name three. I was happy,
Oh,
mad, and sad,
yeah,
you know. So if you don't have words for these things, it's much more difficult to feel them because there are nuances to happy, there are nuances to sad. So being able to dig down to what the feeling actually is something that I'm also working on. I have a feeling wheel. I usually sit around with it, but it's not near me right now. So it's a wheel. You can just Google it, feeling wheel or emotion wheel, wheel like the wheel of a car. Then it just has this layers of descriptions of feelings, and when I'm confused about what exactly it is I'm feeling about a situation, I go look at it, and it does that. It narrows down from from happy to something else that shows exactly what I'm feeling. And additionally, the thing that I thought initially was hocus pocus that was that you feel feelings in your body. So for perhaps a big majority of the audience, that is obvious. But then for people who are like me, when you asked, other than not having the word for the feeling, the idea that you can feel the feeling somewhere in your body and identify that I am feeling this and I can feel it on my left side to the left, that for me was completely out of this world. I had never heard of anything like that until I just started playing around with it. So when I do have a feeling, then I ask myself, where do I feel it? And that I realized helps me get out of my head because I'm not thinking about what I'm feeling. I am feeling what I'm feeling. Then I don't have the conversation about it's not a conversation, it's an actual sensation. And then that sensation, then I can look at it and appreciate it and spend a bit more time with it. So before, as I would always, when I do notice anything coming that is negative and I don't want, I would try to cram it away, push it away. I don't want negative emotions. I think a lot of us were taught that emotions like anger are bad. So instead of just feeling the anger, I'd say, no, 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 feeling anger is bad. Then I just quash it somewhere. And those emotions get stuck. They get
yeah.
stuck in your body because ideally an emotion is just meant to be felt on its way out. It's it's a motion. So you feel it and then it goes. But then if it gets stuck in your body, then other problems might come up.
Mm,
there's a book called The Body Keeps the Score, like
definitely.
emotions, trauma, things like that. And I noticed that when we're dealing with our emotions, like we take a shower every day, we brush our teeth every day, we are not taught to deal with our emotions every day. Like, how do you have an emotional hygiene routine? We need to have that because every day, like if you're not processing that, that kind of builds up, builds up, builds up, builds up, and now you're just like walking around with a bunch of emotional gunk within you. And sooner or later, you'll start to identify with those feelings that you're repressing and suppressing. So they'll be like, oh, that person's always mad. Yeah, because they probably never processed the anger or the being mad, so it now became their personality. And when these feelings are stored within the body, they typically come with ailments and, illnesses and diseases that attack the body over time. People end up developing like autoimmune diseases or certain conditions because they've repressed certain feelings. And once we kind of release those feelings over time, I don't know. I don't know if you guys have been noticing, but I feel lighter within my body. I feel lighter. I feel lighter in my steps and my walking. There's somebody that I knew who was always negative, who was always um, negative, anxious, like just bad vibes. And whenever she walked, and she was not a heavy person, but it was like thud, 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 thud. Like I was like, oh my God, fee, fi, fo, fum, like essentially walking down the hallway. But her energy was so heavy and dense. So like when you're doing this inner work stuff, you're releasing all these emotions, you typically feel lighter in your energy. You don't really have as many ailments or any illnesses. You're not really um, getting used to getting sick or anything of that. And you're not feeling like aches or pains as often as somebody who is more negative or who is suppressing their feelings. So that's something that I have noticed like within myself. I'm very fortunate enough to not feel like physical pain. I feel lighter in my energy. I'm very like optimistic about life and the people around me, and I think that opens me up to possibilities that somebody who might have been pessimistic or negative about the world may not have had.
I'm reading the emotion code.
Hmm.
So just today, to give an example, out of the blue, I was cooking and then I got a stabbing pain at my back as I
Oh,
was listening to the book. And then there was something, there was something that the book at that point was talking about. I was listening to the Audible version. Yeah, and it just like pricked something within me. So I actually paused it. The book talks about releasing emotions. So it gives the process of how to release emotions which are trapped inside your body. So I stopped and then I just did the exercise to try and release the emotion. It wasn't an instantaneous relief as I was hoping it would be. But then within a couple of hours, then that pain was gone. Came out of the blue, went out of the blue, and I was like, yeah, this stuff is powerful. Mm,
Mm.
yeah.
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 It depends on what feels right and for you to release those energies, those trapped emotions, whether that be EFT, whether that be like, it works when you feel lighter, right? And to me, like crying sometimes helps out a lot with that. I'm like, oh, I feel better. Or going on a walk, or sometimes I'll talk out loud, and then like it'll initially, for let's say I'm upset, like I'll talk out loud and I may be very upset. I might start off with anger, but anger is usually a secondary emotion. It's like sadness is underneath or hurts underneath. And then I'll get to the sadness and then I'll like cry and I'm like, I feel so much better. Like I released something. Um, but I think people who refuse to cry or see weakness in crying, I think they're really doing a disservice to themselves, because when you refuse to deal with certain feelings or certain emotions, you're not allowing yourself to open up to the more beautiful feelings like love, joy, excitement, things like that. Like you're kind of stunted in accessing the intensity of those emotions when you're not allowing yourself to feel the lower emotions. But the only way is through.
Mm. I think a lot of people are scared, though, aren't they, to feel those emotions? I know I was scared to actually feel the emotions because I don't know why. I think it's just like, what does it mean if I'm feeling these emotions? Maybe or you try and deny them, don't you, and push them away and try and be strong and think I'm not going to be depressed. I'm not going to be anxious or whatever. And then, but the more you resist, the more it persists, doesn't it? So I think it does come from a fear, doesn't it? Because you don't realize that if you can process those emotions and then focus on the positive ones, that's the key, isn't it, to moving forward. But I think that's why a lot of people stay stuck, isn't it? Because they're just in a place of fear and in that like loop, aren't they,
Mm.
of fearful thoughts and then fearful emotions. So yeah.
And I do think as well, it's also this the hygiene that Alex you mentioned. We are not taught. I was particularly not taught that emotions have to be felt. And I think of like little boys who are told don't cry. Crying is for girls, things like that. So society tends to just build this image around us, and then we're always so busy. So I wasn't this understanding that feeling is the way through. I heard somewhere that emotions are energy in motion. So it's just energy that it just needs to move. And that sitting in it, as you said, Nikki, just sitting in it and feeling it and then letting it go is the right thing to do. I do feel that a lot, myself included, I was absolutely not conscious that this is any conversation to have. That there are emotions that when I'm angry, I need to feel the anger for my own good or it might affect my health. I never heard of it. Yeah. Mm. We have here connecting with the body. So now we've spoken about the emotions, we've spoken about feeling them inside the body. Then I think when you started, Alex, you mentioned about how being in your body helps tie you into your intuition.
Hmm.
What does that mean? What does it mean to be in the body?
I feel like within our body, you have your like your soul, like your inner guidance. It's the essence of who you really are. And in order to really tap into that, we need to get out of our head. We need to, for example, I know I'm not tapped into my body when I'm overthinking. I'm in my head a lot. I'm over analyzing. I'm thinking about the future, thinking about the past, worrying about things. I'm not being present. I'm not being present in my body when I do that. So I try to, it's so crazy because like I'm very fortunate enough to where it's like now that I don't experience that, so I'm like to think about how how I got here now. So I take it for granted because generally I feel very more at peace and the present. I feel very more aware of the sensations that I feel within the body. I'm really quick to pick on when I get like a rush of anxiety because I feel like before I would feel like this rush of anxiety coming in, and then have that anxiety like all day and then it'll, go into the next day, and now I can pick it up and then like almost like double down on feeling calmer. And I kind of like train myself to be more calm. So it's kind of wild to like look back at it and then like I haven't always been this person, so I have to I have to think about that and how that happened. But um rather than making decisions out of that anxiety or that fear, I like sit with myself, sit with those feelings and let it go. Like what am I avoiding feeling? Usually like the fear and anxiety comes up and it's like, oh, I'm feeling anxious about the future and things like that. And or like I feel like I have to face it because when I face it, it like goes away. But if I run away from it, like I pretend it's not there, or like I'll go about my day and resist what I'm feeling, it like amplifies, it gets stronger, the anxiety, the fear gets stronger, and then I'll have like a mental breakdown because of how intense it got. And it's so emotionally exhausting to keep doing that to myself. And I realized that's not fun. It drains me. There needs to be a better way to go about it. So I think initially what I did was I kind of set timers throughout the day where I kind of did like a mental check-in with my body. I'm like, okay, how am I feeling right now? So that's what I did more initially, just to be more conscious of how I'm feeling in my body. And then it just became habitual. Like, I feel like generally I feel more in a state of peace and calm. So when I'm not in that, it's so easier to catch it. But I was in a very fearful anxiety state before. So it is possible. I think we got to start off a little bit more consistently. The check-ins throughout the day, maybe like every hour, like tuning in with the body, see what we're feeling. If we're feeling in anxieties, having that emotional relief with EFT, somatic shaking, crying, because if not, it's going to build up and build up. And then, at that point, now we're running and making decisions based on off of that fearful anxiety state.
Mm. I'll add something on the senses. For me, it was the senses. Trying, even now, I don't know if you can see it. This is my emotional support animal.
Oh, cute. Is
it's a
it a
little,
moose?
it's a little reindeer. So
A
what
reindeer?
I've
Oh
done
my
is
God.
I've put some lavender. So it smells like
Yes.
some lavender scent. Is it essential oil? So this I just carry this. I keep it nearby in case I do start feeling a bit of a panic, a bit of anxiety, any kind of things are getting a little too much. So then I just have it around me. So that senses, I try to eat when I'm eating. What I do now is if I'm eating alone, then I have there's nothing else going on. I'm not listening to anything. I'm not watching anything. It's just me and my food. And the reason I do this is to appreciate the flavors. Just slow down, appreciate the flavors, so that I realized that I noticed my first and my last bite. Everything that happens in between is just lost. So now that's my intention, to just slow down, sit with my meal, and actually enjoy the meal. What else do I do in terms of senses? I think that for me, those are, I think, the main ones: the smelling and the texture. For me is also something very big. I love texture, and this is actually mostly a lot in my food as well. I like food that has a lot of different textures. And I also just like having soft fabrics around me and things like that. So depending on what it is that is most attractive to some, but I think it's all of them. I think we should try and listen all the senses. I listened to high vibrational music. The I don't know what they're called. The frequency. So music that's at a higher frequency, it's meant they if you go online, they'll tell you about all the frequencies and what they're good for. So whether or not that's the reason that you're doing it, but higher frequency music tends to elevate me is what I found. So I tried to listen to that, stop listening to anything that was off. In fact, the one thing that I stopped, the first thing that I had to stop doing was watching true crime. I was completely obsessed. I knew everything. I was just watching everything, watching everything. Then I realized that it puts my spirit in a certain state that I'm afraid of going outside. Then I realized that this is information I'm feeding myself that is raising the energy of fear. So instead of that, I just stopped consuming that and then was watching more into what I was consuming, to be consuming more, to be consuming the kind of things that I want to feel like. Yeah. Mm.
Same thing with
Yeah.
reality TV, because I stopped watching that because it's all about drama, back and forth and unnecessary chaos. But
Yeah, yeah.
that's the whole point of the show. And I'm like, well, I don't know if I want to keep watching this. This is not good vibes. I'm feeling anxious watching this, and you start to really realize you've grown a lot when the things that you used to watch and listen to are no longer something that attracts you. Like even like mainstream music from time to time, like the lyrics and the whole vibes of things. I'm like thinking about it, I'm like, it doesn't resonate, but like well, I'm not surprised at the world the way it is if that's going to be the mainstream of what's been playing. So, um, you're right on listening to more things that are putting you to more calmer state and in a state that you'd want to keep feeling those feelings of like love, abundance, things like that. I don't want to be in a scarcity mindset or feeling anxious or fearful to go outside. I too was somebody that wanted to like keep watching the true crime shows or scary movies, and now it doesn't really appeal to me as much. So I'm like, wow, like I've changed a lot because I know how much these stuff impact us, whether we realize it or not. So now I have the awareness, and because your body keeps a score, it thinks like it's real, it's happening, and
Mm.
I start to think like that's actually in your reality. And I'm like, it doesn't do anything to my nervous system. It's not, it doesn't give me a sense of ease or love. And I just don't feel drawn to it anymore, particularly. So, um, yeah, that's what I've noticed in my own inner work journey. It's just I've noticed a lot of changes, and I believe they're for the better.
Mm. Yeah, another thing that's helped me as well is breathing is like a big one to connect to my body, like deep breathing. So it helps to calm me down, but it also helps me to be in the present moment and also connect to God as well. So that's like a big one. And dancing is another one. Well, high vibrational music. Yeah.
Yes.
I love dancing. Dancing is also something and I've taken to doing it now, like just every day. I dance whenever I get out of the shower.
Oh, I love
just,
that.
just makes me happy. Yeah.
I
It's a
think
Mm.
good
it
way
comes down to
to
having fun and playing, like if you're not having fun and playing throughout your day,
yeah, definitely.
it's actually really sad, actually. I feel like we've been conditioned to, we have to earn to play. Like, oh, I wasn't
Mm.
productive, and once I'm productive, then I can reward myself. And I'm like, that's such a miserable life to have. Like, you may even have more insights, more creativity because you allow yourself to play every day, because you allow yourself to feel the joy and excitement. You withdrawing that from yourself and withholding that from yourself is only going to allow the struggle or the resistance to good opportunities that could have come your way. I know for me, when I'm trying to push harder or try harder or do things more, I'm like, no, I need to stop. I need to do something enjoyable right now. I need to give myself a break, dance, walk, go on a walk, watch something that makes me feel good because it puts me in a different state that it's more ease and flow, and I'm not, I'm not struggling as much or resisting, or I'm not making it harder on myself. So that is like a mindset shift or just like a whole embodiment shift that is different in the way I act now than I did before.
Mm. Were you going to say something, Nikki? I thought.
Um, I might have been. I can't remember now. Never mind. Can't have been my fault.
It's gone. But this is actually the what we were going to. This is actually the next point we have: activating pleasure.
Yeah.
So I
That's the
was
comment,
today.
Carson. Sorry, bear with me one sec. You carry on.
Okay, activating pleasure. I was earlier today painting. I like painting. I like painting very much, but I've noticed that more recently I cannot find the time to paint. So I had to sit with myself and ask myself, why? Where does the time go? 24 hours in a day. What do you mean you cannot find the time to paint? And I came to realize that there was, now because I'm reading the emotion code, there was also a stuck emotion that was blocking it, such that I did not feel that I should allow myself access to the pleasure that comes from painting. All of this is not at it's not at the front of my mind. It's something happening deep within the recesses, so something that I'm not aware of. And I found that so interesting. And what I told myself I'll do is, because I know that I like to paint, then I will consciously create the time, come rain, come shine. I shall fight it out. And sometimes it does feel like a bit of a fight. Like there's this a self-sabotage that's trying to keep me away from doing what it is that I actually want to do. Can you relate to that in any way?
Yeah, I feel like are drawn to certain things, and we know when we're self-sabotaging because we want to do something, but we know we're holding ourselves back. And
Mm,
then on the flip side, I think that we feel like we have to do something for the sake of what society tells us to do, our parents tell us to do, our friends tell us to do. And that's also in resistance to itself because it's like we feel we have to do certain things. Like we have to go to school to get that specific degree to get that specific job, and you kind of lose yourself in that process. You're like, did I even genuinely want this for me?
Mm.
Or was this something that I had to do? But when it comes to something more authentic, when it comes to something more true, it's gonna let you up. It's gonna let you up. It's gonna, you almost feel like this burning desire within you. You're like, I don't know why, but like, I want to do this. And I've always had that. Like, some of the things, like, you always had that within you, but you didn't think it was a possibility. You didn't think it could happen, or you wanted it to happen, but you didn't take any action because you were scared. That's like your intuition nudging you, saying, hey, this is for you. Like, stop blocking your blessing. Like, you're getting yourself in the own way. And that goes kind of go back to the whole intuition thing, right? When you're getting more in tune with yourself and stuff, you really get to identify what are your more authentic desires versus manufactured ones that are placed by society, friends, and family and whatnot. And I'm trying to tap into that more and trust that because I know something's for me when it lights me up. And for example, I wanted for a long time to create a YouTube channel. I've been wanting to do that for years. And I had the desire to do it, but I was so scared. And then I did it. And then I'm like, oh my God, this is happening. And now it's like, whatever. But that's me, like now just embracing things that I've wanted to do. If it's something you want to do and it scares you, that's usually something that you should be doing because it'll light your soul up.
Beautiful. Nikki, we are just talking about activating pleasure.
Mm.
So I just given the example of self-sabotage that sometimes I want to do something, then I don't do it, and yeah, that's where that conversation went. What do you have? Do you have any comments about activating pleasure?
Yeah. I mean, I've been trying to do it like in my just day to day in my daily life, like taking more notice because I think like someone was saying before about feeling like you have to earn the play, and you have to be productive, and then only then can you have pleasure, or you've got to get to a certain point and then only then can you have pleasure. So I've been trying to, even when I go to my office job, or if I'm doing something that's not particularly what you would call pleasure, trying to like romanticize it and make it pleasurable and like tell myself I enjoy it. I think I don't know whether this is, no, I'll say it. I was saying to Alex, there's been a situation at work and there's a few people that I think don't like me, but I've kind of told myself that I enjoy not being liked. That's kind of an extreme, but yeah, that's kind of one way to deal with like a hater situation is like say, oh, actually, I enjoy it. So
I
uh,
love that.
yeah, kind of spicy, but yeah,
You know why that works, Nikki? Because you like you. You like you, and that's all that matters. Because if you didn't like you, you would have been dependent on whether or not these people liked you.
yeah,
And them hating you or not liking you would have been so detrimental to yourself. Like, oh my
yeah,
God, why are these people not like me? No, I think you like are holding your own frame. You really do like you. So at this point, you're like, if you don't like me, oh well, you're lost, you know? So it's like a whole
yeah,
different energy. You've tapped into your villain era and you're
yeah,
just accepting yourself who you are, and you know you're great, and the people that are in your life, like who genuinely appreciate and love you for you, they're there because they want to be there. And anyone else that doesn't resonate, good riddance, you know? Like we weren't on the same wavelength. You were bad vibes anyway. So it's more, you get the better quality people that are meant for you now than you probably ever did before.
yeah, 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 definitely.
Beautiful. I was reflecting on that disconnect between what we wanted to do and what we have found ourselves doing, because we had to go to school and whatever it is had to happen, and had to end up in a job, and had to. The other thing, in terms of finding things that you yourself enjoy, I always think it's valuable to go back to your child self, your
Yeah.
younger self, the things you used to do when you were young, whatever it was. It could be as silly as can be, but reflecting on those and trying them out, because there is a reason you like them then, and if you like them then within what's the word, reason. I'm not telling you to go eat soil if that's the thing that used to knock you off when you were young. No, within whatever it is, maybe you used to like pirates as an example, then maybe now you'd be tuned to watch Pirates of the Caribbean, something like that, or go to a museum that talks about that kind of thing. So that's just journaling, sitting down and having that inner conversation, can find one, two, three things that can greatly improve your quality of life. Just finding a couple of things that you actually enjoy doing can really make a world of difference. Yeah.
Yeah,
Follow your
definitely.
joy, and I feel like through that, you can also monetize with following your joy too. So you can also, that side, you know, hobby that you liked, that could be something that could generate income for you. Like if you like painting and you enjoy it so much, you could sell it. You can sell it and people would appreciate that. And I think we're all born with certain natural gifts and abilities that people, and when we tap into that, it could be of service. And now you're like, this is too easy. Like I'm being paid to be me. That's exactly what we're supposed to do, guys. Not everyone's supposed to
Yeah.
be a doctor, not everyone's supposed to be a lawyer. Shiro, you're a lawyer. But I'm like, it's funny, but like my point is not everyone's supposed to go down certain paths. And if we force ourselves to be in certain boxes, we really get to, it's a disservice to our natural gifts and abilities, our natural talents, our natural interests. But those same things are what we can share with the world that will light us up and bring joy to other people too. So yeah, so when we're following our joy, we follow our heart, it like, I feel like it leads us to, like, that's our intuition speaking with us. It's like, come here, go here, like try this place or talk to that person. For some reason, like you feel connected to this person, there's a reason. So like pay attention to that. So follow your joy, follow your guidance, follow your intuition. I've always felt like I've been playing with that more, and I feel like I really enjoy it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's true though. We think that it's just too easy, don't we, sometimes? And we think
Yes.
that life
Let it be easy.
can't be easy. Surely we have to work hard and all of that, because that's how most people live, isn't it? They like grind and like to make a bit of money, and it's like maybe it can be different. Maybe you can follow your dreams and what you enjoy and make money doing it. And yeah.
Absolutely. And I do think that a lot of people have done that. There's a
Mm,
lot of examples that are out there, very successful people who became successful because of doing exactly what they enjoy doing. So,
yeah.
yeah. So, any last thoughts? Those were the three areas we thought of highlighting today. Any final comments?
I guess your intuition is always bringing you back to you and who you really want to be, who you really, what you really want to experience. And if you're not sure if that's real, look back into your life and be like, I had a gut feeling about certain things. When have I not listened to my gut and I chose not to listen to my gut and things didn't work out? Well, that's an example of you not listening to your gut. What if you took the chance on listening to your gut before making these decisions? It might lead you to something better. In hindsight, you're like, why didn't I listen to it then? Well, this is your time to listen to it now and cultivate that, practice it every day because we're all intuitive and it's just bringing you back to you.
Mm. Yeah, and I think learn to trust yourself and trust the intuition, because and don't be swayed by other people, like trying to get other people to like you. Just you can't go far wrong if you're following your own desires and your own intuition, and that way I think you get like more respect anyway, because you're being your authentic self, aren't you? So yeah, and also like good opportunities will come if you're being true to yourself and following your intuition.
You said something, Nick, and I wanted to say one more thing too now.
Sure,
Sorry.
sure.
But when you listen to your intuition, you're less likely to ask other people if you're on the right path.
Mm.
You're less likely to get others people's opinions because even if you do and they say something different than what you wanted, you'll get a contracting feeling in your body. You're like, they tell me to do this and my body contracted. Um, and so you'll start to like not want to ask people for their opinion too much. But if the I'm not saying you're never going to ask anybody anything ever again, but I would ask myself, are those people in alignment with them? Because they're generally going to help me point me back to myself rather than tell me what to do. They're going to ask me about like what feels good for you? Like what does your gut say on that? I would never want to tell someone what to do. I'm just going to help them guide them to back to themselves at the end of the day and what feels good for them because it's they know themselves better than I do. And I trust that they will get there. We all got here, and no one has no one outside of you has the answers. And you are secretly asking for permission when you ask others, like, am I doing this right? Or what should I do? You secretly know what to do.
Mm.
And you just want like that validation of it. But if you are going to get that validation or need the actual guidance, plug in with somebody who is on their path, on their journey, that's living their dream or utilizing their intuition because they're going to be a good resource rather than you're the person that's telling you what to do.
Mm.
No, beautiful, beautiful. Um, uh, to just add on it is the idea that there is a part of you that knows everything. Your intuition has all the answers.
Mm.
It has all the knowledge. So trusting this part within you that is eager to guide. Let it listen. If you don't know how, try again, try again. You'll find that you do know how. Even that answer is within you. Great. So thank you, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We highly appreciate it. This is the Coaching Circle, and we'll see you again same time next week. Bye bye.
Bye.